Hey guys, Jessica here. Today I would like to talk to you about my minimalism journey. I think it's pretty easy to see how minimalism and budgeting can go pretty well hand in hand, but I figured I'd talk to you about how I started to trend towards minimalism and what our plans are going forward. Starting early on, I had this childhood tendency, and I always kind of laughed it off as a joke, but I always just wanted to live in the tiniest space possible. Really out of the ordinary places, non-traditional places, as small as possible that I could get away with. And like I said, I always laughed it off as a joke. And then kind of through, young adulthood, I definitely struggled with conflicting emotions between pack rat tendencies and between the desire to declutter. So I'd always want to keep things, memorabilia or the what ifs. I was notorious for keeping what if type things. What if this happens? I'll need this, and what if I need this for something else? I was very conflicted between those two for quite a long time. So I was in an apartment for several years, and then RJ and I started dating, and then we moved into an apartment together. So there was a lot of stuff, but having two of a lot of things, it was pretty easy to clear up a lot of them and downsize to one household. So that wasn't so bad. But it was when we bought the house that it seemed pretty standard. We bought a bigger house, we have a lot more space, and we have to fill that space with stuff. And we just started accumulating so much stuff. Didn't really notice it at the time, but once we kind of hit the wall, like I mentioned in our debt-free journey video, we started to look around and rethink the way that we were living. So like I mentioned before, we wanted to simplify the way that we were living so that we could minimize our cost of living in order to work less and have a lot more freedom. It's basically our ultimate goal. And in doing that, again, like I mentioned before, I researched a couple of different alternative living options, being the Earthship, Cob House, and finally the tiny house movement. And of course, in the tiny house movement, the tendency is towards minimalism because you have a lot less space, so you're going to thereby have to have a lot less things. And so after watching tiny house tour after tiny house tour after tiny house tour on YouTube, I started to watch some videos on minimalism and some minimalist tours, and I just really liked the aesthetic. I really liked the feeling of decluttering, having fewer things, and just living more simply and not having a whole ton of clutter weighing you down. And that's how I started to feel when I looked around. I felt weighed down, and I started to feel just a little bit of anxiety just from having so much stuff. So I started working on decluttering. I started going through the rooms in the house, went through the kitchen, went through the bedroom, the closet, some of our son's older toys, things that he wasn't really playing with anymore. And we did a lot of decluttering. This was last spring that we started, spring of 2015, that I started the process. And we moved a lot of things out to the tune of probably at least a garbage bag a week. Pretty regularly moving things out between donations and yard sales and things like that. The good thing, pairing the minimalism journey with the budgeting journey, is that we did move a fair number of valuable or semi-valuable things out of the house. And we were actually able to fund our entire emergency fund just by selling some of the clutter from our house. So that was very, very helpful. So we've been on this process for a little over a year now, pretty steadily decluttering, downsizing, paring down, and we're at the point now where it's gotten a little bit stagnant. I think we're down to a lot of the things that are deemed pretty necessary for maintaining a home, especially a home of this size. Again, it's a 1,700 square foot house. So I think our next step is looking around and seeing what other ways we can downsize. We have a lot of unused space in this house. It seemed like a great idea at the time. Standard American dream, get as large of a house as you can afford and everything will be great. But I feel like there's just a lot more house than we need. So I think we're hoping to find a way to downsize our living space. I know my ultimate goal is to live as simply as possible, as few material possessions as possible. I love the idea of the extreme minimalists, people living out of vans and people living out of their backpacks. I think that's just absolutely amazing, and it feels so light to me. It feels like there's just nothing weighing you down when you have so few things. And so I think that would be the ultimate goal. How far we get towards that goal is yet to be determined, but I'm really excited to take you guys on the journey with us. I think the next step will be to do some tours, kitchen and bedroom, closet tours, to see where we're at with our minimalism and where we hope to be. So I'm happy to bring you guys along with us and show you where we're at and get your opinions and see where we can go from here. Alright, thanks so much for watching, and I look forward to talking to you guys again soon.